just as a first point of order, I will apologise for the hair. I've just finished a bit of a workout on Zwift and jumped straight in the shower, so it is a bit all over the place at the moment. I am aware, and I'll fix it for the next one, because by the time I do another video, I'll have my pre-surgery shave, so don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
So today's video is going to be on the subject of creatine for endurance athletes. Now, just before I start, I'm going to paraphrase probably my favourite YouTuber, Dr. Greg, and say that I am not a doctor.
I am no freaking doctor. I don't know anything for real about any of this stuff.
So whatever I say, please do your own research. If anything I say or I show in the video, or you read after watching the video, makes you think, I want to have a try of that, I want to add that to my diet, please take some medical advice first. I mean, creatine is generally safe, but it has been shown to have some pretty bad reactions with specific medications. So just, if you, as a matter of course, just check with your GP anyway, but especially if you're taking any sort of medications for things like your kidneys or your liver or stuff like that, just double check. It's always safest to ask, and for the GP to laugh at you and say don't be silly, or then take it and put yourself in hospital. It's unlikely, but it could happen, so just show a bit of common sense, ask somebody who really knows what they're doing. Right, so I'll start off by just simply addressing what is creatine. Now I'm going to keep this as simple as I can possibly put it, but creatine as a compound, it's just a normal, naturally occurring compound. It essentially lives within your muscles, and what it does is it helps your body have access to a molecule called ATP, which is essentially a very key molecule in releasing energy from your food. So you have carbohydrate stores in your muscles and things like that. They're formed of quite complicated molecules. ATP essentially facilitates the method by which they're broken down and energy is released. Creatine helps you recycle the byproduct of that back into ATP. So the more creatine in your muscles, the more ATP is available. So therefore, the more energy you can release in a short period of time. So the key phrase there being a short space of time. Essentially, creatine doesn't have benefits, and this is shown in a lot of studies. It doesn't have cardiovascular benefits. It increases the power that you can put out for your muscles until fatigue builds in. Obviously fatigue builds in slightly less, and the max power you can put out with that muscle is slightly higher when you have higher concentrations of creatine within the muscle fibers. Now, this very short, intense power increase is why creatine tends to be used by people like bodybuilders, powerlifters, because it allows them to train with heavier weights. It allows them to sort of stimulate the muscle a lot more intensely. Basically, the gains that go with that, the fact that you're lifting more weight, that you're able to put a more intense contraction into the muscle, that all goes towards building up a stronger muscle fiber. So for powerlifters, over time, it allows them to lift heavier weights. For a bodybuilder, it allows the muscle to obviously develop and grow. So these are the primary users of creatine as a supplement. Point brings on quite nicely to what benefit is it to endurance athletes, because as an endurance athlete, you spend very little, if any, of your time during a long event in that sort of really high effort state that creatine's known for having a benefit for. And to be fair, yeah, you'd be right. I mean, you don't really need to improve your top end power, because how many times in an Ironman do you ever put your top end power out? The exception probably being maybe a sprint at the very end, if that's what it comes down to, but really it's not relevant. And from the studies that I can find, that seems to be a lot of the conclusions and that they draw from it. But I did come across one which discusses essentially a potential training benefit. And that training benefit being that they found in their testing that creatine supplementation improved the performance of some triathletes carrying out interval testing. Now, when creatine is used for building muscle power or building muscle volume and mass, if you continue to train, once you stop using the creatine, you tend to keep that mass and power. Now, it kind of begs the question, does that apply to this? So if you take creatine as a supplement to improve your performance in the interval sessions, you're working much harder, you're developing the muscle much more. Does that then carry over to increased performance? Does that help you increase your FTP when you stop using the creatine? Now, I'll start to wrap this up because it is at risk of getting a bit long and I'm starving and I've got my food waiting. But it is worth pointing out that the studies do highlight that creatine supplementation shows no evidence of increasing your cardiovascular endurance. And a few of them that I came across did mention that the biggest factor is obviously things like your VO2 max. It's going to be how well your body processes oxygen into the muscles and things like that. Not so much the point power that creatine helps by increasing the power. But that said, obviously we do a lot of endurance training anyway as triathletes, and if there's something in this, there absolutely doesn't seem to be many downsides in being able to put a little bit extra power through your legs. If that means obviously you take a very cheap supplement for a few months, a year, as you come up to peaking, and then you stop taking it to lose the extra weight from it, then great. It's not like a steroid. You're not going to pack tons of muscle mass on and things like that. So I don't think concerns down that route are particularly valid. But it is an interesting topic, and I apologise if I've made it boring. But it's definitely something that warrants a bit more study into, I think. Obviously, I'm by far and away not an expert on this. I would be hugely interested to hear other people's thoughts, ideally from somebody who has a bit of a background in this. I'd love to know if I've misinterpreted things. So yeah, absolutely, if there's anything that pops up in this video that you want to comment on, just let me know. And yeah, hopefully it's been of some interest and it gets have a little bit more look into how you're training. So all the best, and I'll catch you next time.